Hello, these are the answers to the perimeter, area, and volume ratios practice. You probably got this on Friday. This is when that lesson was in class. So go ahead and take some time to check your answers. Go ahead and pause the video right now. Check your answers to this homework if you didn't do that in class, and then we'll get to the review for your test. Okay, we're just going to do a mixed review of some problems, some area, perimeter, volume problems that you'll see on your tests on tomorrow, Wednesday. So find the volume of a cube with side length 7. Now, we know that volume of a cube is not on your formula chart, but a cube is a prism. It just happens to be a prism where all of the faces are squares. Just a side note, when you're talking about the net or the faces of a prism, these are your lateral faces, and then these are your bases. But your bases are still a face. A face would be any of the flat surfaces. But of course, in a cube, all of the flat surfaces are squares. You might be asked about nets or about faces on your test. So I wanted to highlight that for a minute. All right, so a lot of us know that to find the volume of a cube, you would just take the side and you would cube it. That's where cubed comes from. When you cube something, you're finding the volume of a cube with that side length. But if you were like, I didn't know that, and I used my formula chart, your formula chart would say base times height. The base would be 49, and the height would be 7. The height would be 7, and the base would be a square that's 7 by 7, so it would be 49. So remember, capital B stands for the area of the base, the area. So the answer to this problem would be 343 centimeters cubed, cubic centimeters. Find the surface area of this cylinder. The only way we could really mess up here is if we accidentally use the diameter instead of the radius. You know that you need to find the radius first. And then we go to our good old formula chart to look for the formula of the surface area of a cylinder. So when it says surface area, if you don't see the word lateral anywhere, it means total. Every time if you don't see the word lateral, it means total. So for the surface area, we're going to do 2 pi RH plus 2 pi R squared. So instead of R, I'm going to put 8. And instead of H, I'm going to put 13. That was a weird 8, sorry. Trying to fix it. Plus 2 pi R squared. So remember most of the time that we keep it in terms of pi. So while we're going to our calculator, we just skip over the pi. We like hop over it. So 2 times 8 times 13 plus 2 times 8 squared. Very basic problem. 336 pi inches squared. Remember, area is inches squared. Volume would be inches cubed. Area is 2D. We learned that. Talked about that extensively on Friday. Okay, find the volume of this pyramid. The good news is that when we have the height and the slant height and the apothem of the base, they form a right triangle, and in this example, it happens to be a Pythagorean triple. So we don't have to deal with radicals here. We know the first thing we should do is cut that 24 in half and make that 12 right there, and now we can find the height of the pyramid, which is 5. So volume for a pyramid, we go to our formula chart. Base times height divided by 3. Most people run into trouble because they do base times height and they stop. So make sure you divide by 3. Another time people mess up is when there's a picture of a hemisphere and they keep forgetting to divide by 2 because the hemisphere is half a sphere. Anyways, so we're doing 24 squared because that's the area of the base. That's capital B. Times 5, which is the height. 13 is not the height, it's the slant height. And then we make sure to divide by 3. So we have 960 cubic meters, meters cubed. Find the lateral surface area. So let's just go over the basics. What is this shape called? It is a triangular prism. It's a triangular prism because the base is a triangle. In a prism, the base is whatever there's 2 of. We happen to get really lucky, and the sides are whole numbers, Pythagorean triples. So we know the lateral surface area is P times H. So the perimeter of the base, we're adding up the edges of the triangle. 3 plus 4 plus 5. And then you probably might not be able to see, but that is a 6. So we multiply that by the height. Sorry, that is a 2. 12 times 6, and we get 72 meters squared. Even though it's not total surface area, it's lateral surface area, it's still an area. And so it is meters squared. So what did we just find? We found the area of all the rectangles. We did not find the area of the bases. So lateral surface area is the area of the lateral faces, which in a prism are always rectangles. Okay. Find the volume. So same problem, but now we find the volume. And some of us missed this on the quiz because we forgot that the B, the capital B, is a triangle. So a triangle has its own base and its own height. Sometimes when we get confused, it helps to draw the base facing us. This is B. This is capital B. We're going to find the area, which will be capital B. We don't need the hypotenuse when we're finding the area of a right triangle. So capital B would be base times height divided by 2. So the area of this base is 6, believe it or not. It's less than the perimeter, huh? And the volume of a prism is just base times height. So we get to do 6, which is the base, and whoa, look at there. The height is also 6, so 6 times 6. 36 square meters. Oh, sorry, cubic. Volume. Okay, then we moved on to spheres. Find the volume of the sphere. Of course, we cannot use 36 in our formula. We need to use a radius, never a diameter in our formula. So we're going to divide that by 2. And then it is a simple plug and chug. 4/3. Make sure you're putting that in parentheses. If you choose not to use parentheses, you would multiply by 4. And then divide it by 3. Don't just type it in there without parentheses or pressing enter in between. 4/3 pi r cubed. And we get quite a large number, 7,776 pi inches cubed. So just make sure, I want you to stop the video and plug that in, 4/3 times 18 cubed, and make sure you get the same number as me so you know that you're plugging it in your calculator correctly. Okay, here's the ones that we love. This is from Friday's lesson. Okay, find the similarity ratio of a cube with volume of 216 cubic meters to a cube with a volume of 729 cubic meters. It's not as hard as we make these out to be. So, the similarity ratio is always the 1D ratio. That's what it's asking for. It's saying that this right here is not the 1D ratio. I want to know what the 1D ratio, what's the ratio of their sides? The ratio of their sides is not 216 to 729. So you have two choices here. I notice that that ratio can be reduced. So I can reduce it and then cube root it, or I can cube root it and then reduce it. Why am I cube rooting it? Because this ratio is 3D, and we want our ratio to be 1D. And the way that you go from 3D to 1D is to cube root. In your calculator, cube root is math 4. So when you cube root both of those, I think you get 6 to 9. Does that sound right? This would be not the final answer. You cannot stop there. You don't put that in the blank. That is not the final answer. So you, of course, simplify that to 3. So this would be the final answer. That is the similarity ratio. Done. 3D to 1D. Fisher-Price sells a variety of dollhouses. One of the company's dollhouses has dimensions which are 1/10 the dimensions of the real house. If the toy house has a volume of 80 cubic centimeters, what is the volume of the real house? Sometimes when we have a word problem with all of those words, especially when the font is like this, it helps to draw a picture to kind of figure out what's going on. So we have our house, and then that's our doll house, and then we have our real house, right? And this one is 10 times bigger. The dimensions are 10 times bigger. The 1D are 10 times bigger. We know the volume of this. The volume of this one is 80. We need to know the volume of this one. What a lot of students do is 80 times 10. They take the 3D value and they multiply it by the 1D scale factor. But that's not going to work because you can't multiply a 3D by a 1D. And so since this is 3D and 10 is 1D, we have to do something about that. We want to make all of them 3D because our answer needs to be volume. Our answer needs to end up being 3D. So we're going to do 80 times. How can I convert this to 3D? How do you go from 1D to 3D? Well, we just cube it. So my calculator, I'm going to do 80 times 10 to the third. Not 80 times 10, 80 times 10 to the third. Real houses have lots of volume. You should get a large number. You do, and you should get a large number. Because we are talking about all the space in a real house. Not just the square footage, the space, the air. So anyways, 80,000 cubic centimeters was the final answer on that one. Okay, let's keep going. A right cylindrical tank is 8 feet in diameter and 20 feet tall. So cylindrical means we have a cylinder on our hands. It is 8 feet in diameter and 20 feet tall. How many gallons of paint are needed to paint the LA only? So we're not including the bases. If 1 gallon covers 200 square feet. So we're going to find the LA, 2 pi r h. Now, are we going to press the pi button? So we can get our answer first in terms of pi, but then when we divide by 200, we're going to need to press pi because we're going to need a real world answer. So 2 times pi times 4 times 20. I got 4 by taking the 8 and dividing by 2, of course. Okay, but we're going to end up multiplying it by 2, aren't we? So we have 160 pi, which if we press pi and we approximate that, we get 502.654. Okay, so that's how much area we need to paint, 502.654. So now we're going to divide. Each gallon covers 200 square feet. This is area, so we need to make sure we divide our area by 200. We divide what we got for our area by 200, and we get 2.513. So what answer do you put on your test? You don't put 2.5 because we're not going to buy partial gallons. We're only going to buy whole gallons. That's what the problem is asking for. So how many gallons do we need? At the store, we would need to buy 3 gallons because we always round up. Even if it said 2.2, we would still buy 3 gallons. You always round up so that you don't have any part of your cylinder that's paintless. You don't want to have any paintless parts. Okay, so those were the review slides. Make sure that you do every problem on your review sheet and check it with the key online, and then go to tutoring or ask your teachers if you still don't know how to work one after doing every single problem and checking it with the key. Good luck on your tests.